Alejandro Rojas is with us. He's in Denver with MUFON. Alejandro, how are you?
Hello there. Doing good.
I checked Amazon to make sure that you didn't have a book or something that I could plug for you. And there is an Alejandro Rojas who's a writer, but it sounds like he looks like he's a poet or something. That's not you, is it?
No, I'm not an author, and nor do I have a doctorate. Recently in the news, a London paper wrote me as Dr. Alejandro Rojas. It's kind of nice.
Well, we make you, how about this, just an honorary coast-to-coast doctor. How about that?
That would be awesome. You know what? I'm going to use that the rest of my life. Please
do. Now, as a MUFON spokesperson, I will tell you from my perspective, when I see your name attached to a story, I think that lends it credibility and respectability. You've got a good reputation. But this still photo that's been released from this Denver video, which was highly touted and then I think delivered in a way which makes it seem even more questionable. All the news media had to turn off their cameras. It was shown once, and it's going to be monetized in some documentary coming up or something. And the still photo itself not even being very convincing. The email I'm getting, Alejandro, is that either MUFON is being fooled or they are trying to fool us. Are you getting good feedback from anybody saying this looks real to you?
Well, luckily I haven't had such total negative feedback. Luckily people have been able to separate MUFON from the entire initiative and what was going on. And really, Jeff Peckman, who had this ballot initiative, asked us to be the authority when it came to the UFO situation. And the majority of the press conference was about Disclosure Project witnesses. It was about MUFON's history. It was about some of the recent UFO news, because we've had really big news in this area in the last year or so. So that's what the press conference was about. And unfortunately, they decided to add the video to the end of the press conference, which I thought was a very, very bad idea. Now, I've been involved with the Romanek case outside of MUFON for quite some time, for a couple of years. So I know the body of evidence that is there. MUFON has done some light investigation, and we certainly do not have any stance on the Romanek case as MUFON. We've only done some light investigation. There's a lot more research that needs to be done. And our stance essentially is just that there's a lot more that needs to be done. We haven't had access as MUFON to that evidence, so we haven't been able to really assess that situation very well at all.
All right, now you're a former investigator. Were you a government investigator? Is that what you did?
No,
Alejandro?
I was an investigator with MUFON.
Okay, well, no, I understand that's what you do now. I was going to say though, you take a very professional approach to these investigations. Right. So, what haven't you been allowed to do with this case? You haven't.
Now,
have you?
This is kind of tricky, because I personally have been allowed to do a lot with the case, and I have had special insight into this case that most people haven't, because I am friends with the family and I've been helping them out for the last couple of years. But when I took on this case, I was not able to do that as a MUFON investigator, but something separate from that. So I have to kind of do this double talk
that is weird.
It is weird, and it's difficult. And, I can see why, media are getting confused. Lots of people are getting confused about, MUFON's role in this whole thing. And MUFON's role was just to help support Jeff and his ballot initiative and to present some UFO information. Then the video came up after me, so they've got the video out on the internet of me telling people, all right, move your cameras, and seeming real stern. And
right. Well, I mean, let's talk. I mean, again, Alejandro Rojas was there at the press conference. We're talking about the ballot initiative to establish what is essentially a kind of intergalactic diplomacy department. Would that be a fair way to describe it?
I think they call it an extraterrestrial commission, more about checking what does it mean if UFOs are flying over Denver. And for instance, we've collected over 150 written reports as MUFON over the Denver County alone, not even including the metro area. What does that mean to the citizens? What does it mean to the government? What if Phoenix Lights type incident happened over Denver? What would they do? And essentially, this is to, get aboard a commission of people to get ready for something like that and to look into what the ramifications of the UFO phenomena is for Denver County and its citizens.
All right. And as an experienced investigator for MUFON, again, I go back to then where you are with this video. What haven't you been allowed to do as a MUFON investigator? What else, as a typically, if somebody came to you and there was not money involved, or there wasn't a press conference involved, and they just said, "Here's this video," how would you have investigated it?
Well, that's tough to say, because what we have here is a whole body of evidence, evidence that has been collected over 5 years. And Jeff Hoffman, the guy who has looked into that video, has actually looked into several videos, and he's done an analysis on a whole body of evidence here. And so as MUFON, what we would do is start from the beginning, take each piece. We would farm pieces out to some of our scientific consultants. In this case in particular, we would probably even need to go outside of our current scope of what we have and look for credible people, credentialed people in certain areas to look into some of these other pieces to this case. And we'd need to take a hard look. We'd need to get professional opinions to look into this stuff. And we haven't had access. We haven't, as a MUFON, been given the evidence to do that with.
All right, now hang on to that thought. Can you give us a few more minutes?
Definitely.
Okay, then I'm going to roll the numbers coming up next, and I'd love to get other people involved in the conversation. If you've seen the still image that has been at the website, coasttocoastam.com, I'm encouraging you to join in the conversation. Does it look real to you? Does it have the ring of truth to it? And we'll talk more about that investigation that hasn't happened yet on Coast to Coast AM. If you go to the website at coasttocoastam.com, you click onto Friday Recap. That'll take you right to the alien video still image. This is from the press conference Friday in Denver, where Jeff Peckman, who had been on earlier in the week with George Norrie, presented a video purportedly showing a real live alien. Now, the video is being saved for some documentary in the future. They just released this one still image. The people that did see it, at least according to the reports I read, felt like it was unconvincing. In fact, they weren't even sure what they were looking at. Grainy, black and white video shot by Stan Romanek shows what appears to be a creature with a balloon-shaped head, or maybe a kid with a trick-or-treat mask. It's hard for us to tell from this image. And I'm not trying to come down too hard on this, except to say this is so important. This is just to be able to prove it once and for all, to give literally millions of people around the world the chance to say, "I told you so." It's there. Look at it. It is proof. It had the potential of being sort of a paradigm-shifting Friday, and it turned into, well, that. Just a still image that is highly debatable and doesn't really seem to have the kind of punch that people were hoping for out of that press conference. Now, I'm fully admitting that last Saturday here on Coast to Coast AM, we presented all of the evidence, everything except the name of the main suspect that we were investigating on Coast to Coast with the help of Galen Cook for the D.B. Cooper case. And we had an arrangement with the family that the name itself wouldn't be released until later in the week. So Wednesday was the day that the name William Pratt Gossett, who went later on in life under the nickname Wolfgang. Some people knew him as Wolfgang Gossett. And we put all the photos up. We put everything we had up except for that one name. And you didn't have to pay to look at it on the website. And I think that's the problem with this video image. But is it a problem for you? We'll find out. We'll keep Alejandro Rojas here in the conversation, and we'll bring you into it coming up next. Before our guests next hour, the Brofman brothers, the book is Sway, It is just an absolutely fascinating